Morning. We are on Lamed Vav Amud Beis 36b. We're in the middle of a discussion yesterday. You here yesterday? You get to watch it online?
I didn't even get to watch it.
No? Okay, so I'll bring you up to speed. No worries, we'll bring you up to speed. So where we are is like this. I'm going to speak slowly and loudly. So the pasuk said, describing the pasuk, the verse in Joshua, the book of Joshua says, describing the people as they're split in the two mountains of Gerizim and Avel to receive the blessings and the curses. So it says, half was on one mountain and the half on the other mountain. This extra word, the, implies that the half that's there is already known to us. The half, right? I used the example yesterday. If I told you, pass me a piece of cake, then whatever, send me any. But if I told you, pass me the piece of cake, the assumption is you know which one I'm talking about. Because there's a reference to it we already have, and that's why I'm using the word the. So if the Torah says the half, it means it's a half we already know of. So explain to Rav Kahana, yeah, the half mentioned elsewhere. Where else are the tribes divided into two halves? They're divided when they are listed on the two stones on the shoulder of the high priest. They're divided. 6 listed on one stone, 6 listed on the other. So says Rav Kahana, that's the half. Go there, you'll see the split, and that's the same split. The Gemara challenged that by citing to a source that describes the exact split as it was written on the two stones, and neither of those versions of how it was listed on the two stones match the description of who was on the two mountains. And thus, we're back to square one. Why does the Torah say the half about one side, as if we already know about this half? What's the extra word, the hey? And that's where we are right now. So the Ella, but my behachetziv. How do we explain the word which says the half, implying that we have some sort of information about it already? Rav Kahana's suggestion was that it's referring to the same list as it appears in the split between the two stones on the high priest's shoulders, to which the Gemara says, nope, the list doesn't match up. The half that's on the mountain is not the same half that's listed on one of the stones, or either of the stones. So it says, therefore, the Gemara, Tana, we learned as follows. Chetzav Shamul Har Gerizim, the half that is facing Har Gerizim, that is to say, they are Mount Avel facing Har Gerizim, Meruba was more in number, Michetzav, from the half Shel Har Avel that's on Har Gerizim, that's on Mount Gerizim facing Avel. How is that? Mipnei Shel Levi Lamata, because Levi is below. So one of the two mountains had Levi as part of their 6 tribes. But Levi wasn't actually on the mountain. The tribe of Levi was down in the valley near the ark. And therefore that mountain would have had less people, giving the other side more. To which the Gemara rejoins and says, Adrab, on the contrary, you're mixing it up. You said, says the Gemara, that the one on Avel facing Gerizim is more. But they're the ones that had Levi. So if they had Levi below, then they have less. That's what the Gemara says, Adrab, on the contrary. If Levi is below and not on the mountain with them, they have less people. Yeah, with me in the question here?
No.
Sorry?
No.
The Gemara says that the one that's facing Gerizim, that is to say, the one that's on Mount Abel had more people, because Levi is below. Now, Levi belonged to the Abel mountain. Now, if they're below, they have less people, not more. So why would you refer to them as the half? They're the smaller half, not the bigger half. The Gemara is suggesting that the reason why it says the is because that half was bigger, and therefore it says the half, the bigger half. Because Levi is below. Levi being below is a reason for them to have less.
Just a different interpretation of what it means to have about
the Levium, right? Whether
Well, we know for a fact the Levium are below, that the verse describes.
one's including them and one's excluding them.
Well, seemingly, when you're talking about the half that's on the mountain, you're not referring to Levi anymore. And therefore, you wouldn't refer to them as the bigger one if Levi's below. So why the word for them? Yeah? Says the Gemara, Hachikamar. This is what we mean to say. Afal pisha Levi lamata. Even though Levi is below, there's still more. There's still more, even without Levi. Because Bnei Yosef Imohem, because Yosef's children are there, Ephraim and Manasseh. So you have 6 on one side, 6 on the other. The 6 on the other side, it includes both Levi and Yosef. So says the Gemara, even though Levi is below, and if I'm not counting the number, they still had more than the other side. Because Yosef is divided in 2, Manasseh and Ephraim. Plus, were a big and populated tribe.
Right, if you go through the counting.
Yosef is the biggest. That's right. And that's what the Gemara, that's what the verse means when it says the half, the bigger half. Even though they had less number of tribes, they were still the bigger half. And thus the word "the" is used to describe that mountain, the people on that mountain, the half that's on the mountain. Now the Gemara gets to verses that describe Yosef as the bigger amount of people, not just the numbers as we have in our Parsha and Pinchas, this week's portion, but the numbers or verses describing Yeshua's splitting of the land. If you ever read the book of Joshua, the beginning of the book of Joshua describes the conquest, and then the rest of Joshua describes the dividing of the land. So a lot of it is just geography, and then you have some conversations that some of the tribes have with Joshua discussing their lot. And one such conversation is Yosef. And Shenemar, as the verse reads, and here's that conversation. Vayidabru b'nei Yosef es Yeshua, the sons of Yosef spoke to Joshua, to Yeshua, Lamar saying, this is all quote from the verse, Madua nasatali, why did you give me, nachla girdle, a lot and a portion, echad one, v'chevel echad, and one strip, or one section, vani, whereas I, says Yosef, I'm Rav, I'm a big nation. I need more than just one portion. Sorry?
I just wanted to check.
Yeah.
Weren't there 2 tribes who stayed on the other side of the Jordan?
Yeah, Reuven and Gad.
Yeah. So there's only 10 tribes on the other side.
Okay, so?
So it's 5 and 5.
No, we're talking about the mountains. No, Reuven and Gad came across to fight. They just only went back after.
Yeah, that's right.
So by the mountains, they were there.
They were promised that you could stay on the other side.
But they were still
They
there at the time of the curses of the blessings of the mountains. Right, the curse of the blessings of the mountains right before they even do conquest. It's right when they get into Israel. It's that same day when they cross the Jordan, right? So Reuven and Gad is there. All 12 tribes are there. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. No, they went back later, 14 years later, 6 years later, 7 years later. Okay, so the verse says, Yosef comes to Joshua and says, why did you give me one portion? We're a big people. And Yeshua responds to them, Im am rav ata, if you are a great people, go up to the river, go up to the forest. End quote from the verse. Now, the verse is not quoted in its entirety, as Rashi tells us, and it's skipped from verse. It's chapter 17, verse 14, which I'm pulling up here on the page on the computer screen here. So I'll read it for you in English, both 14 and 15. And the children of Joseph spoke to Joshua, saying, why have you given me one lot and one portion for inheritance, seeing as I am a numerous people, for as much as the Lord has blessed me thus? Those are the words that the Gemara doesn't include. Those words, Asher Adkai Baruch Hashem, for as much as the Lord has blessed me thus. In other words, implying that Joseph is this blessed tribe that, in terms of numbers, they always had the highest number. And then the verse goes on to say in verse 15, and Joshua said to them, if you are numerous people, then go up to the forest and cut down for your, go up to the forest. That's the end of the quote that the Gemara quotes. And the verse goes on, which the Gemara does not quote. And cut down for yourself there in the land of the Perizzites and the giants, if Mount Ephraim is too confined for you. Right? And then it goes on to say, the children of Israel said, the hill is not enough for us. And the Canaanites dwelled in the land, valley of chariots, and so on and so forth. The whole conversation going on between them. And then finally, Joshua tells them, you are enormous people and have great power. You shall not have one lot. But the mountain shall be yours for its forest, and you shall cut it down and go on going. You shall drive out the Canaanites, though he has chariots, though he is strong. And then chapter 18, and this is where they get the, where is it? Okay. So this is the main point here that we see from these verses. What just happened? Sorry. What we see from the verses here is that Yosef was large in number, and therefore, even though Levi was not on the mountain with them, and they're part of their 6 tribes, they still had more people, and thus they're referred to as the half. Okay. Now the Gemara discusses a little bit more this conversation where Yeshua tells them, go up to the forest. What did he really mean by that? Says the Gemara. Amar Lehen, Yeshua tells them, L'chu, go, you children of Yosef, v'chavu atzmachem, and hide yourself, seclude yourself, v'ya'arim, in the forests. Why should you hide yourself in the forest? Shalei tishlei b'chem ayin hara, so that no evil eye shall have its hold on you. You guys are multiple in numbers, and you raise jealousies and the what's the word? Resentment of those around you. So better seclude yourself and not flaunt your blessing, and thus not invite any evil eye. Amrulei. So the people of Yosef said back to Yeshua, and this is the meaning of the conversation there, where Yosef says to Yeshua, the people of Yosef say to Yeshua, we can't go fight them out. This is not the place for us. What do they really mean? Says the Gemara. Amrulei. So the people of Joseph said back to Yeshua, you're telling us to go hide in the forest so that we should ward off, we shouldn't invite the evil eye. You're missing something. Zara the Yosef, the children of Yosef, like Shalta be Enabisha. The negative eye has no effect upon us. 0. See, as the verse reads, this is the blessing Yosef gives to, Yaakov gives to his son Yosef. Ben Poiras Yosef. Yosef is a gracious person. Ben Poiras Ali Ayin, his graciousness is attracting to the eye. That's the verse. Now the words here to describe attracting to the eye is Ali Ayin, which means upon the eye, literally. It's gracious to the eye, but the language is upon the eye. So V'amar Rabbi, and Rabbi explained, we once learned this Gemara. I think it's in Berachos. We learned it once. We learned Berachos here once a long time ago, and we learned this Gemara. And I actually wrote about that Gemara. We spoke about it then, in the meaning of Ayin Hara, and I once wrote about it and got it published. Anyway, I'll share with you a little bit about that. So Amar Rabbi, and Rabbi says, Al tihi koira ali ayin. Don't simply read it that it says it's attracting to the eye, as in upon the eye. Ela oile ayin. But rather read it that they are above the eye. The word upon, ale, can also be read oile, as in they transcend the eye. As if to say, the people of Yosef, notwithstanding their graciousness, they transcend the eye, they transcend the evil eye. Okay. Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina Amar, Rabbi Yosef bar son of Chanina says, Mehacha. Here is the verse that derives that Yosef is not attracted or is not affected by the evil eye. The verse we had before is the verse of Yosef's blessing, of Yaakov's blessing, in which Yaakov says is attracted upon the eye, and we're translating it to mean that they transcend the eye. Or as Rashi puts it, the eye doesn't reach up to them. So Grace Bechanina gives another verse indicating that Yosef is not affected by the evil eye. How's that? Because the verse reads, when Yaakov blesses the children of Yosef, Menashe and Ephraim, there Yaakov says, "V'yidgul arov b'kerev haaretz," and you shall multiply in many amongst the land. This is where they're given the blessing to multiply. But the language used to describe their multiplication is the yidgu, which comes from the root word dug, which means fish, right? Fish multiply in big numbers, and therefore the multiplication is described as fish. So why fish? Explains the basic not just the multiplication issue, but actually this also indicates their being beyond the effect of the evil eye. With me, Robert?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. They're beyond the evil eye.
Yeah. But from fish. How from fish? Ma dogim shabiyan. Just as it is with fish in the sea. Mayim machasin alayim. The water conceals them. Yeah? The eina ayin sheletaspan. And the eye doesn't have any effect on them, because when you look at the ocean, you don't see the fish, you just see the water. So too, Afzari Shal Yosef, simply the seed of Yosef, Ayin Hara Shaletas Behen, the evil eye doesn't attract them. And Gemara on this discussion. The Gemara is going to get back to in a minute the list of the tribes as they appear on the two stones.
So how, if I could say this.
Sorry?
How is Yosef compared to fish? How are they covered as opposed to the other tribes? Is there any mention of that?
Good question. And this is where what I wrote comes in.
This is where what?
What I wrote comes in.
Oh,
So I'll share with you the content.
excellent.
The content is essentially like this. The idea of Ayin Hara, the idea of the evil eye, just very briefly, is my father puts it, is when a person has a blessing in life and somebody else sees, there's a jealousy. And the jealousy is such that the person says in their mind, who is he? Why does he deserve to have that's a blessing? So how does that cause a negative effect on the person who has the blessing? Because in heaven, they open up the books and say, well, this guy makes a good claim. He's looking at someone else's blessing and says, does he deserve it? So in heaven, they open the books and they say, well, does he deserve it? And none of us want that, right? So how do you ward off the evil eye then? Very simple. If you don't believe you deserve your blessing either. If you to begin with acknowledge that what you have is not because I deserve it, but because God, you granted it as a gift. So when they open the books and they ask, does he deserve it? The answer is no, and who cares? Close the book. So there's no negative impact from someone else's jealousy when I appreciate that my blessings not because I deserve. If I think I deserve my blessings, and anything that's going to cause them to open the books to ask if I deserve it is very risky. But if to begin with, I say, what I have is not because I deserve anything, it's because by your graciousness, you granted me. And if someone's jealous and they think I don't deserve it, I agree, I don't deserve it. It's a blessing God gave. And then that's the end of the trial. God gave because he granted a blessing, and that's the end of it. Close books. That's the response to the evil eye. This is reflected in the Gemara, which says, the Gemara in Psachim famously says about something else, but Rabbi Feinstein connects it to the Ayin Hara also, which is called the lekopte bade. Whoever is not worried about it, it doesn't worry about them. So if you're not worried about the negative impact of the evil eye, then the evil eye has no effect on you.
It's like the Zugos.
That's right. So the Gemara officially says about Zugos in Psachim. So the Gemara says it about Zugos in Psachim. Rabbi Feinstein in the Tshuva connects it to Ayin Hara. So what's the deeper meaning of this? Rabbi Feinstein doesn't explain this, but this is how I'm suggesting to understand this. What does it mean you don't care about it? What it means I don't care about it is I don't entertain this whole idea that I deserve anything. So this whole argument, do I deserve, not deserve it, it's not something I'm involved in. It's not as if I demand my blessings in life. I'm humble enough to acknowledge that God gave it to me as a gift, and that's it.
Be happy with your lot.
And the happiness comes because I acknowledge I don't deserve it.
Right.
If I think I deserve my lot, then the next day I think I deserve more.
It's not because of me, what I did.
It's not because of what I did, because of God's graciousness, and that's it. Sorry?
Just a vessel for
Exactly.
transmission of
Exactly.
blessing.
What?
You're dismissed.
Oh, it's a quarter to 9.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. So, to answer your question, what does that do with water? Remember, we learned when we were discussing the splitting of the sea, that what does the water represent? The water represents a world in which you're submerged in godliness. The fish are always attached to their source. Unlike humans, they're detached from our source. Our source is the earth, and we walk above the earth. Fish are, so fish represents a world that's constantly attached to the Creator, constantly aware and conscious of the fact that what they have is because of the Creator's graciousness. And that's the idea of fish. And that's what it means when you look at the ocean, the fish is covered. What does this mean spiritually? When you look at the world through the prism of the ocean, And what do you look at the world? What do you see? Godliness. From our perspective on the earth, you see a bunch of things of this independence and that independence and this person and this idea. And if you think about it, maybe God created everything. When you think about the ocean, you see just ocean. You see just God. And everything in it is just a blessing from him. And that's the idea of the fish. Yosef being the idea of the fish. And Yosef in his life lived that life where he acknowledged everything is from Hashem. Even in his doubt, right? The pasuk describes him as someone who's always saying, thank God, Baruch Hashem, right? Shem Shemayim Shagar B'fiv. He constantly had thank God on his lips. Everything was thank God. Even when he was thrown into the dungeon, he says, it's you, Hashem, who did everything. When his brothers come in there and worried of the jealousy, that the brothers are jealous of him and that Yosef's upset at them because of what they did to him, what's Yosef's response? It wasn't you, it was God. Not my downfall is you, not my blessings is you. Not my downfall is me, not my blessings is me. It's all graciousness from Hashem. He's the one that lived in that ocean-like world where it's all godliness. And therefore, no Ayin Hara. Right? And therefore, they tell Yeshua, we don't have to hide in the woods.
I don't know if this is related, but when we do tashli over the fish.
Similar idea, that's right.
Because the fish are immune to the casting of our
That's
sins on
correct.
fish.
Because they transcend this idea of deserve or don't deserve. It's just by your graciousness. Okay, so we're going to stop over here because the Gemara starts a new section tomorrow. And we'll get to that.
Thank you.
You have a good day.
Why did God put all these tribes in Israel just to have them killed?
Yeah, I'm not going to venture to understand God's ways.
No, it's a question I'm asking myself.